Thank you everyone for joining this Sitecore user group session. And thanks to Bala and Madhu for the opportunity. In today's session, we'll talk about Sitecore command line interface, or also called a Sitecore CLI. About us, my name is Nehemiah. I work at EPAM as lead software engineer. I'm a Sitecore certified developer, working in Sitecore ecosystem for last 10 years. I started to work in Sitecore from Sitecore 6.5. So now working in the Sitecore 10.
Hi everyone, my name is Ganesh Kumar. I'm a lead Sitecore consultant. I'm also a Sitecore certified developer, working in Sitecore for the last 10 years. So I'm also started working from Sitecore 6.5, currently working in Sitecore 9.3 and 10.2.
So here's agenda for today's session. So in this session, we'll talk about what Sitecore CLI is, how to install, and what does plugin, and how to extend the CLI with your NuGet, and our recent experience in the hackathon where we extend our Sitecore CLI with additional plugins. And we'll also give you a short demo about the plugin which we install, which we created, and we can go for a question and answer session. Okay, so coming to the introduction, so as a Sitecore CLI, it started as like a headless tool for content serialization in Sitecore 10. Later, you evolved as like an individual tool where you can add multiple plugins. So it's a .NET tool built by Sitecore, which provides a way to interact with Sitecore in command line. So this tool is built on .NET Core, and this tool can be installed in terminal as a local to your project or global. So since there are various versions of CLI currently and some sort of compatibility matters, so it is recommended to install the CLI as local to your project so that you can have a multiple version of CLI in your workstation. So as part of the CLI, so we have another package called Management Service Package, which is also provided by Sitecore, which will help you to interact, which will help the Sitecore CLI to talk to Sitecore and execute the actions, which user has executing. Okay. So this is a high-level flow. So as you see in this diagram, so there are various parts in the CLI flow. So this is a case where users can download the CLI in his workstation, and he can connect to various instances via the CLI. So one is a Sitecore workstation where the Sitecore CLI is installed. Along with that, there will be some additional modules or plugins that the developers can install. And we also have the identity server, which will help the CLI for authentication and authorization. So we'll also have the content management server, in which the management service package will be installed, which will help the CLI to connect and send the request and get the response back to CLI as well. So as a developer, so he has to initially install the CLI in his workstation, and then use the APIs which are available in the identity server and the management service, and send the request and get the response in the CLI in a very easiest way. So you don't need to bring up your browser to do those all sort of work. You can use your command line to execute those actions. So as of now, this flow is mostly working from a Sitecore standpoint. Of course, in my opinion, like you can also create a number of additional plugins where you can talk to other third-party services as well. So it's not that in my, like this kind of a modular way. So you can also add some sort of plugin which can connect to other third-party service and try to get the response in the CLI itself. I will talk about this extension later this session. And coming to the installation, as we said, the first thing that should be installed in the CMS Sitecore Management Service Package, which is there in the Sitecore documentation site, where you can download what is your management service package version. If it is 4.1 or 2.0, based on the version, then you can download and install that package. And so once it is installed, so you can create your source, your project folder. In the project folder, you can add a set of commands, which will get started with the CLI. So So basically, if you can see, we are just creating a simple .NET tool manifest file, which will create the .NET a JSON file, and then you're going to add a source for your Sitecore package source. This will help you to add the NuGet source for Sitecore packages. And then once you install, do the .NET tool install Sitecore CLI, which will help you to download the package from the Sitecore source and then add that CLI. So at this step, so you can run the .NET Help command, Sitecore.NET Help command, which will list down all the inbuilt commands which are there as part of the CLI itself. So as you can see, the login, plugin, and init. So these are three commands which will be automatically added to the CLI during the initial stage itself. So you don't need to add any additional plugins. It will be all automatically part of the CLI itself. So next step is like initialization. So where you can start initializing the Sitecore by executing the init command, which will create a file called Sitecore.json file, which will be placed inside your root folder. So in that, all the Sitecore's official plugins, which are released by Sitecore, will automatically added to the Sitecore.json file. And then when you run the help command again, so CLI will check, okay, what are the plugins which are configured in the JSON file. It will go to the source and it will download the package. It will extract it. It will place it into your local repository. So all this thing will be done by the CLI itself, and you'll be able to quickly get that done and start executing the commands. Okay. And so this is how finally it will be like once you run the help command. So once all the plugins are added, so you will see all the additional commands which are part of the built-in, and as well as the plugins will be listed, and then you can start executing it as per our need. Okay. So some of the CLI commands which we can talk is like the built-in commands along with the CLI. So that's a login, which will help you to authenticate the CLI to the Sitecore instance. Of course, like you can have any number of instances you can connect in the CLI. You can connect to dev, you can connect to QA, prod, everything from your single CLI instance in your local. And init is a command which will help you to create a Sitecore configuration in your project directory, which will help you to check in that Sitecore.json file, which is kind of a configuration for your project. So in case if another developer comes, he has to just get the repository, and the Sitecore.json file also will be part of it. And he can just restore the command automatically. All the plugins and CLI, everything will be added to his machine as well. And we have plugin. So that is a command which will help you to manage the plugins, which is to add and remove the plugin, or if you want to upgrade, you can also do that as well. So one thing to notice, like if you can see, there is a CLI part, there is a management service part, which is provided by Sitecore. As of now, you cannot extend or customize it because that is as per the documentation by Sitecore. So we cannot do that. But of course, you can add some additional plugins. There is no limitation on that. You can add additional plugins and add it to you, but you will not be able to modify any sort of basic commands like login or the plugin or the init. Like you cannot modify anything as of now. Okay. So coming to the plugin. So what is plugin? So plugin is some sort of a simple class library which extends the CLI with some additional commands. Inbuilt, you have the login init plugin, but you can extend that with additional commands with the help of the plugins. So as of now, these are the Sitecore's official plugins. So they support it officially. So in case if there are any issues, we can always raise a support ticket. So first one is the serialization. This is how it was started for CLI. Like they just started as a headless tool for serialization. So this handles more like a unicorn, basically, or the TDS, where you serialize the content and keep it in your repository. So this serialization plugin will help you on that. It will just serialize it. You can also push it, or you can also compare an item from one version, one instance and another instance. Maybe, for example, if you want to compare an item A from a QA and dev, you can also write a command that will compare it for you and give you the results. And publishing is another plugin, and that will help you to publish the content from master to the target database. Um, and you can also have multiple targets in case if you have a preview database or maybe multiple web databases, you can also use that and publish that. And indexing is another plugin which will help you to automate the indexing operations. You can populate the schema, you can rebuild all the indexes. You can do it from the command line. So you don't need to log into your browser or the admin, Sitecore admin to do that. And resource package, this will help you to create item package as a resource file. This is recently introduced in Sitecore 10.2 where you can have the items as a resource file and keep it in your app data folder. Instead of keeping it in the database, you can keep it in your app data so that like the future upgrades can be very easy whenever we have the resource package. Okay. So we just gave some examples how these commands can be executed. So as you can see, um, there is a ser pool like .NET Sitecore ser pool, which serializes items from Sitecore to your local folder. Similarly, if it is push, it syncs the content from your local folder to Sitecore. Some of the other things like publish. So if you just simply want to publish, it will just do a smart publish from master database to the web database or to the multiple targets. So one thing I want to stress here is like the publish plugin has a limitation where you cannot publish with sub items. Basically, if you just provide the path, if you say, okay, I want to publish only the home item. So during that time, only the home item will be published. There is no way for us to publish sub items. So that's a limitation. And when I talked to one of the Sitecore person, they said they are working on an enhancement to allow the developers to publish sub items as well. And yeah, so and other things like you can see the populating the schema and rebuilding index. You can also do that from the command line itself. Okay. So I'm stopping here. I'm just want to give the session to Ganesh to explain other topics, and we'll again show you the demo in the latest part of the session.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks,
Ganesh.
Neha. So now we will see about how we can do the authentication and authorization to a Sitecore instance in the Sitecore CLI. So basically, Sitecore's CLI allows two flows of authentication and authorization. So first, you need the Sitecore identity server to do any authentication or authorization. That's the first mandatory step, and it have two flows of processes there. Either you can do interactive user login, or we can do the non-interactive client login. So the interactive user login using a device code flow. So it's like once you pass this .code login command, um, basically after passing the INT server URL and the CM URL, it will just open up a browser where you can key in the username and the password, and it will return back to your CLI session uh, by creating a user.json file which contains the access token and the refresh token and other details. So that's about the interactive user login. With respect to non-interactive client login, we need some settings needs to be done in the Sitecore identity server. So you can refer the Sitecore documentation like like we need to set up a client ID and the client secret configuration in the Sitecore identity server. Once we did that, just pass on those client ID and the client secret in the Sitecore login command, and thereby we can avoid that like another browser window and all. So that's the non-interactive client login. Mainly this is used for like a continuous integration servers, like in the mainly it's used in the clients such as continuous integration servers. And just want to give a note that do not commit the user.json file as that have the user token and other details in the user.json. So don't commit those files. So that's the one thing I can say. Also, this Sitecore CLI supports Active Directory, authentication as well as Azure Active Directory. So you have to pass the AD tenant name. Thereby, you can log in with you log into the Sitecore instance with the Azure Active Directory as well. So this is the sample user.json. So if you see, by default, it will create a endpoint with a default name, and it have the host name and authority, which is similar to the CM and your INT server, and it have the access token and the reference token. So that's everything will be there. So as you can see, under endpoints, we have default. Like similar way, you can create multiple endpoints as well by passing the name -n parameter in the login command. So we can we can create one endpoint for QA, one endpoint for prod. So thereby we can use uh, diff command for comparing the two instances. So those type of scenarios we can do. So we can create multiple endpoints with the help of the login command, which will got added to this user.json file. So next, we will see how we can extend the CLI with the NuGet. So with the NuGet extensibility, we can add different sets of plugin to our project. Only thing is we need to specify the plugin source in the NuGet.config in our project directory. So that's the main thing. So we can create our own plugin in the class library. Once we create a class library plugin, once we create a plugin library, we can package it and use it in our project. So first thing is in the sitecore.json, we need to add our plugin name in the sitecore.json. So if the plugin is available in the default NuGet repository or the Sitecore NuGet repository, there is no need to do or you can add your NuGet rep in your local NuGet repo also. In the NuGet.config, you can map it to our local NuGet repo. So thereby it will install if it is available in the local itself. Otherwise, you can just add this our library in the Sitecore package cache. It will automatically create in the .core Sitecore init. Once you add, it will create this Sitecore package cache. So NuGet, under NuGet, you can create the NuGet the library which we created as well. So this way we can add the plugin library to our project basically. So next we will just explain about how we did the explain about hackathon experience we faced. So there are 3 topics given for the Sitecore hackathon, which we did recently. So what topic we selected is like the extend the Sitecore CLI plugin. So once we choose the topic, then we thought of collecting the ideas, what we can implement as part of the extension. So first we decided we create a dev collection plugin which performs lots of tasks. You can mention we can just create we can view the job list as well as we can rebuild the link database and start a Sitecore DB. So run a PowerShell report and we can just export to Excel with the help of a command, show config, and run an audit to find a common vulnerabilities, create an anti-package. So there are we thought of collecting all this task in the dev collection plugin. But what happened is, due to time constraint, we ended up completing the first 3 part, viewing a job list, along with that starting a DB task as well as do the rebuild a link database. So we came up to finish those first 3 items as a Sitecore jobs plugin. So that is available. So what this plugin features, it have these 3 commands basically. List command. So this list command it will list all the running, queued and finished and DB task jobs, which is similar to the output which you will see in the Sitecore admin jobs.aspx. So that's the main purpose of this list command. And this is the rebuild link DB. What it will do is, like, once you run the command, it will automatically trigger the rebuilding the link database. So based on the parameter which you are passing for the DB parameter, if the parameter is null, by default it will rebuild the master database. And there is one more command, like a start command, where you pass the DB task name. If you find in the list, if you you find the DB task name and pass that name in the start command, it will start that task in the CLI itself. So that our plugin is available in the NuGet repo itself with name Sitecore warriors.devx.extensibility.jobs. But like we already mentioned, like we mentioned before, you need to install the management service package, which will be available in our GitHub in your CM server, which have the corresponding GraphQL commands like this list, rebuild, link DB, and start. So those are all configured in the Sitecore CM server, which you will connect to your project basically. So this is the plugin. You have to use the plugin command and add with the plugin name. So once you run this command, you will just find the message like it is successfully installed. And then if you use like .NET Sitecore job help command, you will find the list of commands available as part of our plugin. So also make sure that while developing a plugin, you are adding a help commands so that this option will be available, and the developers will be able to know what all the commands available as part of your plugin. So this is the thing. And this is like a sample command, like if list command. So if you run the .sitecore job list, if you will see currently you see that 3 jobs are completed. So with the status as finished, and when it is completed, when it is last run. So like I told, we can start a DB task with the help of start command. So just copy the name which is part of DB task schedule. For example, you can copy the file storage cleanup, which can be run as part of the start job basically. So this is the command, like .NET Sitecore job start with the file storage cleanup. So you can see, like, before starting the job, you will see the last run as 423, and after this job started, if you run the list command again, you will see that last run got updated with the current timing, so that we came to know that this job got executed. And this is the command for a rebuild link database, and you need to pass a parameter for master, the database name. By default, if the database name is empty, it will rebuild the link master database. Yeah. Next, I will hand out to Nehemiah to give a demo of this plugin. Basically.
Yeah, thank you, Ganesh. So I just want to stop and see if there are any questions before I go to demo.
Hey, this is Ravi. I have a question, maybe a dumb one, but trying to understand where would the Sitecore CLI come in handy? Like, in what scenarios would I want to use Sitecore CLI instead of just trying to directly access the CM or the Sitecore Experience Manager?
Yeah, it's mostly for continuous integration. You might say, like, till now, like, we have been using the unicorn.aspx or something to synchronize the files and CLIs of files, right? So this CLI is going to help you to automate that as part of the CI/CD process. And from a developer standpoint, if you want to serialize your items, or if you want to deserialize and store it in your Sitecore, like, this particular headless tool will help you to run it from your terminal itself and do that. And as well as it's not only the local instance, in case if you want to connect your dev instance or maybe a staging instance, that also is possible by other CLI. So you don't need to open your browser and do everything. That is on the developer style. And from a CI/CD standpoint, like all sort of pipelines, if you want to run some sort of command or maybe publishing some items during the CI/CD, you can use the CLI to do that. But like earlier, if you want to publish an item, you have to log into the CM and publish it manually. But now you can automate it as part of your pipeline itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I have a Sitecore setup up and running in my machine. So I'll just compare, I'll run the command and also show you like what are the changes that's happening in your project folder. So first and foremost thing, as we said, so we need to install the management service package. So to work with Sitecore CLI, and if you see in the Sitecore documentation in the downloads, you can see all the versions of CLI available, and in that you have the management service package. And please note there are some versions which is compatible only to certain versions. For example, 2.0 is compatible with 10, but anything above that is compatible with 10.1. So make sure you get the appropriate version and try to install the management service package. Okay, so I already installed this management service package in my CM. So I'll try to, I just create a simple empty folder called CLI. So I'll run few commands, whatever I mentioned in the session. So I'll just create a .NET tool manifest, which will create a .NET tools.json file. And I'll just need to add the source for the Sitecore. If it is already there, it will just say, okay, it's already there. So you're good to go on that. And then you can install the Sitecore CLI with .NET tool install Sitecore CLI. And okay, that is installed. So once that is installed, it's just basically telling, okay, this is a tool and this is a version that we should use to whenever we restore the project. So even now, if you type help command, so you will see all the basic inbuilt commands. You can see the login plugin in it. But as of now, nothing has been initialized, but it's not useful. But you have to initialize, you have to log in, then only those commands will be useful. So next step is to initialize it. Like we have to initialize so that the Sitecore related configurations will be created. So once you do a init, you can see the Sitecore.json file is created. And whatever the Sitecore's official plugins, automatically it will be added to the Sitecore.json file. So these are the 4 plugins which are there released as part of the site, and then that is added. So as of now, basically we are just initialized. We have not told CLI to install all the plugins. So even if you see here, there is no packages here. Basically, whenever you write the next command of saying .NET help command, what CLI will do is it will try to see, okay, what are the plugins which are there in your JSON file. It will go to the source, it will download the package, it will extract it, and it will just place it into the package or cache file folder. Okay, so this is the package NuGet package, and then it will just extract it and place all the DLLs there. So as we said, the plugin is nothing but the class library. So this is the plugin name, and this is the entry point of the particular plugin. So this particular plugin class library has all the commands which will be used by that which will be handled by the particular plugin. Okay. And yeah, so now we got all the things. Now I think we can get started with the login. So in case if you want to understand what is login, how to login, so you can always use the help command in the, you can always use the help command. So every command and subcommands also has the help option. So you can use that and you can see, okay, what are the mandatory parameters, and then you can use it. So as you can see in the login, uh, the three important things that is mandatory is the auth, what is identity server URL, and what is your CM URL. And third thing is, if it is a non-interactive session, then you need to have the client ID and the client secret, which must have been already configured in your identity server. Okay. So for now, I'm not going with the non-interactive. I'm going with the interactive mode. Basically, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to have this one. Basically, I'll just show you the example. So basically, this will say, okay, this is my login, and this is my identity server URL. This is my CM, and this is also a particular flag which will say, okay, whether you want the access token can do a rewrite also, read and write also. So as Ganesh said, like this will open a new window and it will open the identity server. And one important thing here is if for CLI to work properly, you need to have an admin user. So in production or somewhere, you can have a separate admin user ID. You can use that. Yeah, you can use it for your connection. But as you said, like any sort of CI/CD, we always go for the client ID client secret. So you need to keep it somewhere secure so that you can use it during the CI/CD process. So once you log in, it will ask you whether you are allowing it. So once you allow, what it will do is like it will get the access token. It will store it in one of the file called user.json file. So the user.json file, whatever we used it in the login command, it will just save it, host, authority, and access token. Everything will be stored here. So that is one of the reason where we should be avoid checking in the user.json file. And of course, there is a default. You can also specify the name parameter. Let's say if you want to connect to a dev instance, you can say -en dev, and you can have a different identity server and different CM URL. And then another set of instance will be created, and then you can use it for comparing those kind of things. Okay. Yeah, so these commands, okay, if I try to use the help command, as you can see, I just logged in, my access token refresher, everything is set. So now I can use any commands to do actions. And I also install the management service package. So for example, I can use the publish. If I simply say .NET Sitecore publish, by default, what it do is it will just publish the entire master database to the web database. It will just kick in, and then entire items will be used as smart publish, and it will start publishing to the web database. And if you have multiple targets, you can also specify the targets using another subcommand called targets, so that you can also see it from the help command. So there is a PT name, and you can list on all the different targets if you have it. So as I said, if you specify a path, let's say if you're trying to only publish a path, so the limitation is it can only publish the particular item. So you will not be able to publish that item and the sub items. So that feature is not available as of now. So I think it looks like Sitecore is working on that to enhance that. So this is as of Sitecore CLI 4.1. So coming to another option is we have the serialization because CLI for the help command. So as you can see, there are multiple subcommands are available for serialization. You can check what are the configurations available, and you can also pull, you can push, you can also see the difference between two different instances. Let's say, for example, if you want to compare an item from some dev and the QA, you can specify two different endpoints and say what is the item that you want to compare. That CLI will go to each instance, get the item, compare it, and give it to you. Okay. So one of the option here in the push is like once the push is completed, you can tell CLI to publish the modified items. So that is another option which is available. So .NET Sitecore selection push help. So there's an option called publish. So once the items are synchronized, and that will trigger a publish for each of the items which are synchronized. So again, this is not doing a sub item publishing. It's basically what are the items which are getting synchronized. It's just publishing those items to the target database. Okay. So coming to our hackathon experience, so we just created a plugin called Jobs. So as Ganesh said, like we need to install that service package. So it is there in our one second, let me bring up the page. Yeah, so this is our GitHub page. You can see we have a service package. So that package has it's a Sitecore package. You can simply use the installation wizard to install that first. So once that is installed, all the APIs which are related to the jobs plugin will be there in your CM instance. So once that is completed, you can come back to the CLI and start adding the start installing the plugin. So you can just use the plugin add command. It's basically a .NET Sitecore plugin add, and then what is the name of the plugin. So that will go to the NuGet.org. It will download the package, it will extract it, and it will save it here. From the project perspective, we see in the Sitecore.json file, the new plugin name will be automatically added to the plugin list, and as well as you can see the plugin also has been downloaded and it's extracted in this particular folder. And that's it. Like once that is completed, you can use the help command to see what are the options available here. So you can see all the list of the particular plugins are shown here, and you can see .NET Sitecore job list, which will go to Sitecore. It will fetch the list of jobs which are currently running, and it will show up here. Okay, yeah. So the UI is not that clear, but we just wanted to get all the information during the time period. We just want to show that. And these are the jobs which are shown in the jobs.asx page in the admin. But these are the tasks which are there configured in your task scheduler in your master database. So in case if you have some sort of task, that will be pulled into this the results. So in case if you have some task and if you want to run it on demand, you can use the task name and then run that as well. Start and the job name, and that's it. So it will just go to Sitecore. It will just start the job as well. And there's another sub command is the rebuild link database. So we have the job rebuild link DB. If you don't specify the name of the DB, by default it will go use the master. So you can also specify the web database and then rebuild a link database as well. So if you don't specify anything, it will go to Sitecore. It will start the rebuilding the master database. So normally I've seen the rebuilding starting the master database rebuild. It takes some time to respond. So yes, it is responding now. Okay. And so as we said, the management service package is nothing but a service layer which will accept the request from Sitecore CLI, and it will respond back, right? So you can also test your API with your Postman. So for example, we created three endpoint, or not endpoint, I would say like three different method to get the request from CLI and execute the action in the Sitecore context. So as you can see here, this is a job list. Basically, this is just nothing but a management service where we have to pass in the custom query that we created. So as part of the hackathon, we created a query called job list. We have to just send out our token that we generated. So you can just use what are the token that you got as part of the usage.json file and then use it for testing as well. I'll just use this one. So whatever the result that you get it from the CLI, you can also get it from the same API. So basically, this is a response that you get it in the CLI window. Same thing as like start job and as well as the rebuild job. So those are kind of like some we have to pass some parameters. So that variable we have to use it in your query in the post body. And once the rebuild command, that is like a custom method that we created. So that will go to Sitecore. It will start rebuilding the index DB, rebuilding the link DB. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we did, and our repository is there in the GitHub, and yeah, so we provided all the instructions about, okay, what are the commands, what are the sub commands, and what the sub commands will do. We just listed all these things here. So you can always feel to, you can use it in your projects. Yeah, so that's all from our side. So we are open for questions. Like if you have any questions, we can help you. We can answer that.
That's a pretty good one, Neham. I think a common myth or question that people used to have is related to a difference between a Sitecore CLI or TDS or Unicorn. And also, I believe the CLI is free version, but they do also have a paid version of that, right? For the VS integration. Do you mind just having a quick brief on that so it helps people clarify that?
Yes. So Sitecore CLI is a free version. That is basically what Sitecore says is like the best part of Unicorn and the best part of TDS. They're just combining and keeping and using this CLI. That is the Sitecore standpoint. So CLI is free for everyone. You can use it, but there is another tool is called Sitecore Visual Studio tool or something. Let me open that quickly. So that is a kind of a extension in the Visual Studio. So that is the paid version. So you have to pay for it, similar to what the TDS, they have to pay for it. And whatever you can do it in the CLI, you can do it in the you can do it in the particular module also. So I know where the module is up and running. Okay, for some reason it's not showing up. Yeah, so this is a tool for Sitecore for Visual Studio. Let me see if I can open that project. Okay, so I think that particular piece is not configured, so it seems to be not working. Let me see. Okay, okay. So I couldn't get that done. So basically, this will show you the list of item that is going to be serialized. You can also use the pull command from the Sitecore Visual Studio itself. So one thing is like as of now, what I understand, it is not working in the Visual Studio 2022. It works for 19. So there's some sort of limitation. I believe they are working on that to support 2022. So that's the only difference between the CLI version and the Sitecore Visual Studio.
But rest of all the functionality is available, right? So there is nothing restrictions or anything at all.
That is right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, do we have any other questions? I had a question related to the one you showed in Postman. So you're like, do you mind showing your plugin code? So I'm just curious how that works. Like when you do something on your client side, is it just doing the same kind of a post in the backend?
Yes, so basically the CLI will receive the command from the terminal, and it will convert that into a API request, and it will post it into your management service. So I'll just open that solution quickly. Yeah, so this is the management service which will accept a query, and it also accepts some sort of mutation. That is something like you have to pass some parameter and do some action. This is something like a get request or something like that. So basically, this for the list. What I'm doing in the list is just getting the jobs from the jobs viewer and getting the response and reading, sending the response as is. So that is, yeah, once I install this one, so I just need to pass on the particular query in the post body with a particular token, and that will just execute the same thing in the Sitecore context. It will run that, it will get the response, it will send it back to us.
Okay.
And from the command perspective, so command will read the user commands from the terminal. It will convert that into a service, and then it will send the service request to the management API. So yeah, it's basically converting that request from your terminal and sending it as part of a request to the API, management API.